Solid. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's much we can do there. Share screen, and that's screen two. Yeah.
Let me know if there's gonna be pizza. Let it end that publication. True, you should tell me that also. Yes.
Well, the plan is to have pizza at every meeting, regardless of anything.
Okay, that's the plan.
That's the plan. No confirmation on whether that actually being the case. Why did it change?
You can. Did you memorize over next quarter? Actually, I think I want to believe that.
Huh? There's a dial.
Oh, okay. Someone.
You want it on that back one?
Wait, is it autofocus? I was just curious. Project age of the watch. Oh yeah, what do you think? I was looking for like 5 minutes. I was like, oh shit, this is more important.
Okay, hello everybody, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Today we'll have a presentation on a previous project that Hunter, our lovely treasurer, worked on, as well as a current project that we are doing, in a similar vein that Hunter's gonna be leading, not this weekend, but next weekend, if I can remember dates correctly. So with that, I'll pass it off to Hunter. And there will be pizza at the end outside.
Michael Hemcraft.
Oh, and then, yes, I did want to bring that, for our meeting announcements, we are gonna add a slide in the future that has pre-meeting announcements. Camp Cram this weekend, if you don't have your license yet, come out from 9 to 3 on Saturday in building 8, room 123. It's the bioresource building, it's the big room on the end of it. We'll be doing a study session from 9 to 3, and then you'll do your testing session right after from 3 to 5. We have like a 95% success rate, so like show up and use like 70% of your brain and you should do well. If you want to study by yourself, you can, and then just come for the study session from 3 to 5. If you like studying by yourself, do that. If you don't, and you don't think you will, go to the study session. You will probably do better. Yeah, if you have any questions, check. Yep.
So like, you just send up the Google form, like, as long as your name is on the Google form, then.
Yep, you should be good to go, because we're using that to figure out how much food we're gonna bring. We're actually.
And register on Hamsteady.
Make sure you also sign up on the Hemsteady link there.
Okay.
For the actual test.
That was in the form, right?
It should be on the form and the calendar and the announcements.
Okay, no. Yeah. Yes. Hemsteady
Two
is
things.
not. It's
Yeah.
filling out the forms.
No,
And then decision link is in the.
Yes.
Okay.
Both?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, if you got both those, we're good. Yeah, so just be there 9 AM on Saturday. For the actual study session, we're charging $10 because we're bringing food and stuff like that. But then for the test, it will be free. And then FCC will charge you a fee for your license because they're mean, and they want more money.
And you get to listen to us talk for 6 hours.
Yes, great. Okay.
So if you like this meeting format.
Feel free to still sign up. You might wanna DM me on Discord. Sure, I. Stuff we need. Alright. Yep. We're in Discord, what's your email? KN6RJA on the support Discord, with my name, it's the media. His name is also Ryan. Also, I was the one who sent out the last. Classes.
Yes, email anyone in the officers or like DM anyone in the officers category on Discord. We'll
Having
probably
trouble.
help you.
Well, yeah. We know-
Okay,
we know
cool.
Ryan is.
All right, Hunter, take it away.
Just going based off of Michael's introduction, I'm not gonna be talking too much about our project here. It's mainly just gonna be what I did this past winter. Winter break, yeah. But yeah, HF Go Box project, yeah, let's get started. So basically what I'm gonna talk about, what is an HF Go Box? If you guys haven't used mine, if you're curious. Pretty much what goes inside an HF Go Box and considerations when you're designing, like choosing components. And then if we have time, which I'm pretty sure we do, I'm gonna go into more of like a deep dive of what I did during my project. So yeah, what is an HF Go Box? So pretty much they're radios in a box that you can take wherever. I like to put HF radios in mine. These are all HF rigs, I believe, maybe not that one. But basically, we take them to events like SOTAs, POTAs, and we took them onto JOTA. Although we didn't use it for that, we just stripped it for parts. Yeah. So basically, you can take this up on a mountain somewhere or a park if you're doing POTA. Connect your antenna to it and transmit wherever. I don't know how far we got when we took mine to where we did Morrow, whatever. Or park or something. I don't know. But that was actually a pretty successful POTA.
We've gotten out.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, so these are very good for POTAs, and they're really portable. And that's kind of what you design for. So they're designed for quick and easy deployment. I mean, it takes us longer to set up masts than set up the radio, which hasn't always been the case. Before we had these, but yeah, they're supposed to be lightweight. Mine isn't, because I have a massive battery in there. And yeah, they pretty much contain only the essentials for getting out the air. You can add more stuff if you want to. Like I was able to fit an entire laptop in mine, just like in the lid of my box. Granted, it was a very small ThinkPad, but that was mainly just for logging and control of the radio that you can do through the computer. But yeah, pretty much just bare bones communications box in a nutshell. Yeah, so what goes in an HF Go Box? Obviously, you have a box as a component. That's the whole enclosure thing. You have a radio and a tuner if there's no internal tuner for the radio. Most smaller SDRs like this, like the G90, have those just as part of the radio. But there are some older Go Boxes that need an external antenna tuner. It's just another consideration when you're picking out radio. The UI panel, that's basically just whatever thing you print out or mill out that like your radio head unit goes into or whatever ports that you're going to be using. Pretty much what you interact with when you are setting up and taking down parts. A voltage regulator. Oh, the battery, that's important. Battery, that's going to power all of your stuff. All of your radios, all of your peripherals, whatever you have in the box. That's a very important thing. Voltage regulator, because there are different battery chemistries out there, so it might not drive too well with whatever voltage your radio wants. So having that extra kind of thing in the middle to regulate the voltage if your battery nominal voltage is say too high for your radio, in the case of my box, or too low if you're using a lower voltage battery. Then what else? Power distribution block, that mainly used if you're plugging in more things than just your radio. It just distributes power, basically. That's what it says on the tin. And other accessories. So I have a phone charger on mine, and I could put a laptop charger as well if I really wanted to. I don't think I want to because that sounds like a lot of work. But you can get pretty creative with it, especially if you have a battery that is oversized for your application, like mine. So yeah, but basically, when you're considering what components to pick, and I'm gonna try to drive this home with all the rest of my slides, you want to design for your use case. You don't want to be carrying like all this extra weight when you're just gonna be up there for like an hour operating. Like it's just stupid. Don't do that. But yeah, so considerations when choosing your box. So there are different types of boxes that you can choose to make a go box. There's not really one that's better than another. I mean, you can pick whatever for your use case. So like we have, these are pretty popular in the AMP community. These are like 3U like server rack things that you can like take wherever. People usually operate these out of their tailgate, so it's not really meant to be kind of picked up on something. It's mainly just you drive out to a location and you just kind of set it up and operate from there. And then there's Pelican cases. These are obviously meant to be a little bit more portable. This is what I did. Obviously not with an official Pelican case because that would cost like the entire project budget. But yeah, it's basically just, you know, a hard case, usually watertight. I poke some holes in my boxes, so it's not watertight anymore. But yeah, basically just put it down on the table or wherever you are, open it up and you should be ready to go. And then there's these. These are just like cases. I think is what Matthew wanted to do for on the project. These are just pretty much boxes that hold your radio. It's not really something that's just like ready to go as you open it up. You have to still do some assembly, which is why I personally don't really like these, just because I like having it ready. You know, when I get to the site, I don't want to do more setup when I get to it. But yeah, considerations when choosing your radio. So obviously there are a lot of different radios out there. But when you're choosing one for a go box, you want to consider a few things. And one of those things is what types of transmissions you'll be doing. If you're doing a lot of voice, you might want something with higher output power. Something that won't get super hot really quick. Maybe an SDR, just so you can have that little waterfall display, you know, seeing where everyone is in bands. If you're doing just CW, like you don't need a go box. You can do that with like anything. I know Elcraft makes like a little handheld CW thing. I think Ken brought that. Those things
Yeah.
are so cool. Those things are sick.
There's kids who operate it.
Yeah, that's really fun.
I mean, you could operate off of a wire if you want.
Yeah, CW is not.
Rub some sticks together.
Yeah, so basically they're just like, based on what you're doing, like design for your use case. Pick a radio that, you know, that you need for that particular use case. You're not gonna bring like, the Flex 6600 out for the mount, like. Yeah.
You would have to repair or replace new parts.
Thankfully, no. I have not had to do that. Because the radio I got is actually pretty decent. And we also, I'm pretty careful. Like I don't let my radio get super hot when we're doing photos and stuff. I try to be as careful as I can with that since I bought that with my own money. I don't want that breaking. But yeah, no, I've never had to do it. But yeah, basically just pick a radio for your specific use case. If you're doing a lot of digital, you know, there are radios that are better for digital than others. You don't want to buy like a similar. It's kind of bad. Yeah, that's basically it for choosing a radio. This is a really big one. This is a really big one. Oh, geez. Considerations when choosing a
Gotcha.
battery. Okay, there you go.
No, you're on the wrong one.
No,
I've got you.
thank you. Well, you can scroll considerations when choosing a battery. So obviously weight is a big one, especially if you're gonna be carrying it in a backpack or something. You don't want like a 10-pound battery. That's like really big. You don't want like a 10-pound battery if you're gonna be operating for like an hour or two. It's just not worth it. You're carrying all that extra weight for nothing. You're not using that battery capacity. You can typically get away with something pretty small, especially if your output power is pretty low. If you're doing like QRP stuff, you don't need a massive battery. Like it lasts you for like days.
Hunter, what's QRP?
QRP, low power. What is it? Under 5 watts. Yeah. yeah, just using really low power. You can still get out pretty decently, especially if you do CW.
Oh, yeah.
CW Morse code. Yeah. So there are definitely some QRP rigs out there. I personally didn't make one. Thankfully the G90 can put out like 20 watts. It's a pretty good. But yeah, weight is a big one. Volatility. Some battery chemistries are much more volatile than others. Lithium ion being, particularly prone to exploding. Funnily enough, I have a lithium ion battery in my box. But I don't know, if I were to design this again with components that I chose, I would not. I would probably get like a lithium iron phosphate, which aren't really prone to doing that.
Or lead acid.
I don't know if I do let us. Yeah, those are pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, just choosing a battery chemistry. I don't know. If you're doing like portable ops and there's a risk of, I don't know, the box getting thrown on the ground, maybe don't go with the lithium ion, because I don't know. Catching fire, in the woods or like on a peak, like
Yeah, these
Not
are
good.
ardent douse too, these
CPAP
fires.
does not condone arson.
If you have a Pelican case, you just seal it.
Oh,
Good.
yeah, you don't
gotta
wanna,
save the case though.
you don't want to be bringing a class B fire extinguisher with you. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't want that catching fire, because those are pretty hard to put out. Yeah, operating voltage, so that also goes with battery chemistries. Some battery chemistries, or all battery chemistries, have different nominal voltages. And this mainly comes into play when you're deciding whether or not to get a voltage regulator, because some battery voltages just kind of drive pretty well with radio operating voltages. So picking the right battery chemistry may make the difference between getting a voltage regulator or not. Yeah, I ended up getting one just because lithium ions, or the fully charged voltage of this battery pack was way above the operating voltage of the radio itself, so it would have damaged it probably. Building or buying is another consideration. So I built mine. I designed and built my battery, and I don't recommend doing it. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And Marcel gave me, he gave me a great starting point. And I'll go more into his YouTube videos and stuff like that later. But he also advised me, don't do this unless you're looking to like really learn. And that was the only reason I was doing it. Like I had these cells that he donated to me. And I had nothing to do with them. I had I didn't know what to do with them, so I just built a massive battery. But yeah, I would only recommend doing this, building your own, if you're like actually looking to learn about battery design. It is very rewarding doing it, but I wouldn't recommend it for any other reason. I would in fact advise against it because batteries are dangerous, That could have happened in my parents' garage or wherever.
About the fire extinguisher that's near the battery.
Yeah, so I had a class B fire extinguisher within like 6 feet of the battery at all times, when I was building it. Because I was working in my parents' newly constructed house. Just be careful, if you do end up, deciding to build your own battery. Because batteries are very dangerous, especially with lithium ions, because they just thermal runaways, no joke, they love to get fire. Yeah, and then capacity is another consideration. How big do you want the battery, basically? How long do you want to operate is typically what determines that. Or just how many cells you have lying around, like me. I had a bunch of extra, so I was just like, let's make this as big as I can.
How many cells does it have?
This one has 28. Jesus, I think.
18650s.
Sweet. Oh,
Tell us what 18650 is.
18650, I have something later on, but basically it's a pretty standard like battery cell size. It's used a lot in electric cars, actually. They use them, they just put like a bunch of them, build their own battery packs that way. So it's, that size is in a lot of Teslas. There are different standards, but this is just a really popular one. Yeah. And they come in a bunch of different chemistries. So you can get 18650 lithium iron phosphate cells, lithium ion cells. They're making sodium ion cells now that are,
Those are not good.
they're, yeah.
Yet.
Yes, yeah, because they just came to market.
Yeah.
Metal hydride.
Yeah, nickel metal hydride, but yeah. Yeah, sodium ion's interesting. Apparently super cheap, but not yet, because it's not really scaled well.
Yep, and not much capacity.
Yeah.
Not much voltage
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, they're not good,
They ain't lithium.
they ain't lithium, nothing's lithium. Yeah. And yeah, there's drawbacks to every different kind of chemistry, I didn't really talk about that, but. Lithium ion cells, basically really high energy density, so you can go longer off of like. One cell than roll with, say, lithium iron phosphate. They do tend to be a bit heavier and. They're not they're pretty expensive, but not as expensive as, say, lithium iron phosphate. Yeah, lithium iron phosphate is pretty expensive, not as energy dense as lithium ion, and it's also way lighter
And safer.
and safer. Yeah, so that's a price.
More cycles.
More cycles, yes. And that's a price I would pay. On phosphate. I don't want. I'm like terrified of these things. Dude, I don't like batteries.
Yeah.
Or you can take apart old vapes, like. so-
Oh, yeah, do not do that.
Don't do that. Do that. Don't try these.
Don't mix chemistries, don't mix capacities, don't mix batteries that are not the same batch.
Well, you know, on the safety, like with the safety brochure that we have to sign on labs, it literally says do not do electrical, electrical stuff at all. Like it's just straight up not allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are good reasons for that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's scary. But yeah, enough about batteries, and I'll talk a lot about those later. Considerations for choosing, I say choosing, I should have said designing a UI panel, because typically you design this yourself. I designed mine, or half of mine, it's not complete yet. But yeah, basically, you may not even need one, depending on what
Yeah.
box you choose. Or, I mean, even if you do choose a box like this, you could just, you don't need one, is what I'm trying to say. But basically, this is what you'll be interacting with every time you set up your radio. So make the design feel. Yeah, I've had some issues with that. That's not the first iteration of that panel. I had to redesign it. Yeah, so just make sure it's good, because it's what you interact with every time you use your radio.
What makes it good, Hunter?
I don't like using mine as an example, but basically, this is half of mine. I haven't finished this yet, but basically what I have is easy access to all of my knobs. I still want the box to close when I'm not using it. I wanted a button for my battery, and all of the ports that are on the head unit, just kind of easy to access. So like this is the mic port, this is for a Morse key, this is for control via my laptop, and this is for headphones. So I just wanted all those ports easily accessible, so I don't have to dig around the box every time I want to, use it. And then, oh yeah, for my coax runs, I have this, but we had to take it out for Joda, and I haven't put it back yet. But yeah, basically, what makes it good is honestly up to you. Just whatever you decide is good. I personally really liked just, having everything really easy to use. So that's what I decided for. And also, I wanted a little bit of a rigid kind of thing, so I made it pretty thick. Yeah, because I don't want that breaking while I'm carrying it. But yeah, what else? Yeah, design can change based on what box. I think I already touched on that. Like this guy, I don't even think really has one. It's just like a bunch of components kind of up there. Material selection, you can make them out of all kinds of different stuff. I just made it with my 3D printer because that's what I had available at my parents' house. But I think for ours, AJ and I were talking about making it out of like sheet aluminum or something. Yeah, something light that, you know, looks kind of nice. You could make it out of FR4, but that would look really gross after a while. Yeah, I don't. That just. But yeah, you can get pretty creative with it. After all, you know, you're the one designing it. You're the one that's gonna be using it, so just
Yeah.
make it look.
If you have a big enough battery, you can stick some lights on it.
Yeah, and I'll actually get into that. When I talk about peripherals. But yeah. Moving on, considerations when choosing a voltage regulator. So as I said earlier, you might not even need, depending on what battery chemistry you go with. I did need one, because as I said before, my fully charged battery pack voltage was way above the operating voltage of my radio. I could have charged it just like 80% and then just started using it there. But I didn't really want to worry about that. I just want to charge it all the way and discharge it all the way. So, yeah, you might not need one. Some downsides to these is some can create RF noise. I haven't noticed too much of an issue with that, with my box. It's not that big a deal, it's not that deep. But yeah, it's basically those. Considerations when choosing a power distribution block. These are very important if you're running more than one thing. I have a really crappy one in there, and I want to upgrade it. Why is it really crappy? Because it doesn't have any of these fuses or like any decoupled capacitors or any kind of circuit protection at all. You typically want to get one with all of those features. Yeah, so some of these, MFJ used to make one. I don't think they do anything. Yeah, they're stopping production this year. Yeah,
They're stopped or they're stopping,
they are stopping
so next thing, this coming thing.
this upcoming May. And then they're gonna sell all their excess product, but they're not making anything. And I think they're still offering repair services past.
Wow.
Good deals.
Hmm?
Which deal?
Yeah.
Let's continue, sorry.
Trying to get some good deals off MFJ dying.
That's the free market.
But yeah, MFJ, for those who aren't aware, they make some really good amateur radio equipment. They make like masts and rig runners and all sorts of cool things. They are going out of business soon though, which is a real shame, because they make some really good stuff. But yeah, an example of a rig runner here is they have, you know, all these fuses. I don't know if they have decoupling capacitors, but I mean, I assume they do. I know the rig runner does. This is a company that we really like, Westmount Radio.
Yeah.
We have one of their smart rig runners that powers most of our DC stuff in the rack. They make really solid stuff, but it's also like really expensive. This is honestly like $100 for this.
Just, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, like
The one in our rack is like $7.
yeah, no, that one's like really expensive. But yeah, their stuff is just incredibly expensive for like, I mean, it's good quality, but I don't know if I'd pay that much for like a 6-board rig runner. Like, I can't justify that. Our friends at Herring-Alderate Workbench also make one. Last I checked, it was out of stock on DigiKey though. But this is also pretty good. It's comparable to a lot of these other ones. And then PowerWorks also makes one. That thing's really special. PowerWorks makes some questionable things. Or they sell some questionable things. They don't actually make like anything. They just make products from other companies. Like, yep, this passes our quality checks. I will sell this now. That's yeah, and their quality checks aren't really the best sometimes. But yeah, basically, some design, some considerations. You know, do you want a fuse block? If your devices are taking a bunch of different, or they need a bunch of different currents to operate, you know, you want overcurrent protection for those things. And yeah, typically you want decoupling compressors, just so you get rid of any voltage fluctuations at your outputs. But yeah, you only really need these if you're plugging in stuff other than your radio. So I need one of these. Oh, yeah, so
So like with that one, control how much power goes into the different components in the box, that.
you can't really control it with these. Basically you plug in your radio or your battery to one of these, and then anything that's plugged into all the other ports gets power from the battery. So basically it's kind of like a splitter, but a lot safer. Because it's fused and it has some other circuit protection.
So you can see the orange one has a 40 on it, so that's your DC input. So you got a 40 amp fuse on your input. And then like the reddish one, I think that's a 10 on it. So whatever's plugged into that is supposed to draw less than 10 amps. So if it's starting to draw more than 10 amps, then it's gonna drip the slowly. And so that's, you're not gonna just keep drawing current, whereas as Hunter currently has it, something could keep drawing current, then maybe heat up and catch a fire.
And then the batteries would also catch on
Yep.
fire and then.
It's in the flex. Yeah, and another thing, if you do choose to go with something like this, it's not the end of the world. You can individually fuse all of your electronics. I think my radio itself has a fuse installed in line. So there is some circuit protection there. It's just, these are so nice to work with. I would prefer having this over an inline fuse radio, just because they're so easy to change. And they look nice. They're beautiful.
Or wait though.
What else? Other accessories. So these are some of the other things that you would plug into your power distribution block. If you're designing a box like this, it's really up to you what you want. I eventually want to add a battery monitor just on the UI panel, just because I don't like looking at my phone every time I want to check my battery's voltage. Because a Bluetooth connection between my battery and my phone. It's annoying. Like, it's a cool feature, I just don't want to look at my phone every time. It gets annoying that way. You can add like phone chargers like this. I have one on mine. And it says Quick Charge 4.0, which is really nice. I love using this thing. And you can add like lights, like I think this is our exact battery box. We have lights on it. Actually pretty helpful if you're doing night signals. Yeah, or just if you're working in the dark.
What if I want to charge my laptop?
You can charge your laptop. If your battery, has enough juice, if this supports it. Yeah, basically you just gotta spec everything out to your laptop's power needs. But it is new. Typically with a lot of these peripherals, they don't really have too much of an effect on your operating time, unless you have like a really small battery. In my case, it doesn't. This battery is massive for its application, and charging your phone does not reduce the time really at all. Yeah, and it's honestly up to you to kind of come to a compromise between, all the stuff that you want in your battery box versus, how long you want to operate. Do you want to prioritize charging your phone over operating for however long? Like, that's up to you in the end. But yeah, are there any questions? My favorite, like one of the ones I had up here. We can probably break.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what this is all for. Either the radio or. They kind of scare me. Yeah.
What's the worst?
Worst component? The voltage rate. Oh god, I don't like these. It just, they're not, no, they're pretty efficient, it's just, they reduce your runtime, but. In the ham radio community, not super uncommon. A lot of people do like emergency communications, and maybe not a box like this. They usually use a lot of the server back things that I was showing you earlier. And they just, because hams are older typically, And they don't wanna be like carrying all that stuff around. So they just drive out to like a park or something. Where tailgate and just operate that way. But it's not uncommon. A lot of people that are interested in Lotus sodas, they use these. Like Ken used, I mean, not really Go Box.
No,
but
he has a
it's
Go,
He has a
yeah.
bag.
the Go bag.
The
Very cool.
classifications get kind of blurry, the more bare bones you go. But yeah, it's pretty common, that's it.
So the box, or we bring that to friends. Just. People are using it all the time. It's like,
So this is kind of different from your walkie-talkie, or as they're called, handy talkies, which is a stupid name, I hate that name.
it's not HTs.
It's a handheld transceiver.
Well, handheld transceiver, but we call them handy talkies.
Yeah, so these operate in a different frequency band, than a radio like that. This operates in the same band as like our big tower that you probably see when you walk around Boulder Point. This operates on what's called UHF or VHF. Basically just higher frequency for these. They go a lot shorter distance, or they have a smaller effective range than say that. Because that can bounce off the ionosphere, or not bounce off. You guys know. It can just travel a lot further.
But what do you need to connect to it?
What do you mean? Yes, you need a very big antenna, which I don't have with me. But yeah, like I think last winter field day or some competition or some, yeah. Sometime we had.
Yeah, it was winter field, we use that.
Yeah, and I hooked this up. to the
We
tower.
were dual opsing.
Oh, yeah,
It was,
You got to talk to other radio people for that same box.
yeah,
Well-
typically like longer range stuff. So people in their houses or in their car, maybe like. We can go pretty far with this.
We've gotten Washington
Actually,
State.
I was just listening to somebody from Portugal. What, 40 minutes ago? Trying to contact him. I didn't actually get the answer, unfortunately.
And it kind of depends on your radio as well, how far you can get out. So like this does 20 watts, which isn't really too much, but it can get out pretty far. But like our flex can probably get out further. And also your antenna, like that thing's massive. Whereas this we put on like a, how tall is this gonna be?
No, it's taller, no,
Like
wait,
25,
25,
yeah,
Yeah, then we just like string out.
28.
antenna there. So it depends on your equipment a little bit. Also
And-
depends on weather. Or
Whether,
yeah,
And where you are.
and where.
yeah, if you're in higher elevation, you get out way more.
But yeah, we talked to other hams with this to answer your question. We talked to other hams, using the same radius. Uh,
Including batteries if they were not donated.
Range.
a lot. This thing, if I had bought everything, would not have been cheap. The radio alone and the box that it came with. And like some of the cat control stuff. Cost $350 before shipping, and that was because it was on like a massive winter deal, like holiday deal. Typically, I think this radio's like
$450.
$450, yeah, so it's like $100 off, and they added a bunch of stuff, so. The radio alone can be pretty expensive. This is like a really budget-friendly radio as well. Other HF rigs like the KX3 costs like thousands of dollars. So it depends heavily on your component choices. The G90 is, I mean, it's a great radio. Very budget-friendly too. The battery itself, I don't even know how much that would have cost me. I didn't look into pricing because I got the cells for free.
I think on average, one of these cells costs you like $17.
No, an 18650 is $3 to $4.
Yeah.
No, like good, like 4,300 milliamp hour Panasonic branded 18650.
You're overpaying like.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, exactly, with built-in protection circuits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly, unless they're in another device implemented already.
You're doing this with a BMS, so you don't need the baby.
No.
Better.
Yeah. Exactly,
Seriously? Cheapest we have batteries from us at $7 a cell, so those are the really cheap.
yep,
That's well.
and so, yeah, if you want the good ones,
It's been a year.
be prepared to shell out some good bucks.
Those weren't sketch, they were just.
I know,
text or
Marcel
go
got
with
it.
it. Yeah, they go with the BMS. And you still use BMS going back.
Yes,
I'm gonna take you to.
So I did pretty much like end-to-end design and assembly over the course of winter break, so like a month. But that was me like working every day on this project. Probably about like 4 or 5.
damn,
Give or take. Yeah, you could obviously do it faster. I had no idea what I was doing when I started, so. If you have that knowledge going in, and if any of you want to build your own box, just ask me. But yeah, that took me a while just because I had no idea what I was doing. I asked Marcel for some guidance when I first started, and then I just kind of went on from there. But yeah, it'll take a little while, just to do all the calculations for the battery. If you're buying your own battery, like if you're buying a pre-assembled battery, it will not. It's literally just like plugging a fan and like maybe printing your own UI panel. That's it. The battery took me a very long time. So,
And if you also want experience building one, we're gonna be working on a project.
yes, this upcoming weekend, I wanna,
no,
Not this
next,
not this, yeah,
Yeah.
so next weekend. We're gonna be. I wanna at least spot weld. The pack together, maybe not get the BMS there, cause I don't know if it's gonna be here on time. But. Yeah, we already did all the calculations for power consumption at the end of last year. If I remember correctly, there's some. But we did all the math for that, last year, we just gotta actually. And I gotta spec out a BMS and then we can actually, or I gotta spec out a BMS, order some nickel strips to connect all the cells together. And. Some cell holders. So I have everything else left over from this project. So we can just reuse that.
Did you already talk about the case of the box sort of in?
Yeah, oh, yeah, Jesus, yeah, so the club is doing a project similar to this. With our KX3, this radio. I think the box itself is just going to have this radio in it, but it will have the ability to plug this in. So it'll have some like 3.5 millimeter jacks and the UI panels, put that in. But yeah, we're gonna be doing a project similar to this, where it's gonna be kind of an all-in-one kind of enclosure. With battery, probably voltage regulator, and the radio itself, and a lot of nice UI things, all in one package. Using cells from a battery that half died, that one of our alumni donated to us. We're just gonna kind of reuse those cells, the ones that are good in that battery type. Yeah, and we already have the radio, so project budget isn't gonna be too massive. We just have to buy a few things for that. But yeah, we're gonna be doing that, not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after. We're gonna be doing some spot welding of batteries, maybe some design of a UI panel and picking out a box. So if you guys are interested in any of those things. Should stop by.
Yeah, and sort of our, to your point, like why would you use this? Our driving factor there is that every time you wanna go like activate a park site and talk to people or activate like a mountain site or something like that. We test the day before and it always takes us like 2 or 3 hours of testing because things aren't assembled, you don't know which cable you need, and then you gotta make sure that your connectors work and it's missing this. And so the nice part about having a box that's ready to go is that everything is all set up. So you take the box, you take the antenna, and you plug in and it works. You don't have to sort of mess around with it each day beforehand. So that will just make all of the other radio operating we want to do a lot easier.
Wait, like, or can you like change the radius so I can talk to people on the walkie-talkies, like,
Not that, so this is a different band of radio. So this is primarily for longer distance communications, and then you bring a different radio, a handheld radio like the one Hunter has, or if you want to talk with people.
Yeah.
We actually do.
Where in the communications area, people will go like higher power, essentially not anti-mobile boxes. To do local communications.
I was thinking like maybe not everyone would have that box, so maybe something like, who would you go to? Something like locally and. Actually, you don't have that.
Yeah, so people have setups in the backyards, people have setups similar than we have here. People have setups in their cars sometimes, or they'll even be doing exactly what we're doing. They have a box on a different mountaintop site and they're also trying to talk to people on a mountaintop site. It's a whole sort of like sport activity for radio activating and talking to people in different, even at like. Can you talk to someone in every single state? Can you talk to someone in every single county in your state? Like that sort of thing. So a whole big sport and contest.
Most people have like their setups at home.
Yeah.
And then you can talk, you're saying locally, but really with the radio like this, you could get tens, hundreds, thousands of miles.
With the right conditions.
Yeah.
It depends on a lot of factors.
Yes. Hunter,
Yeah.
should we demo?
With the.
Let's do it.
local moment.
Yeah.
Pizza.
I've got.
Oh,
It's 10 meters.
I have more.
I did not know
I
that.
mean, unless you guys. There.
How much more?
Like.
Okay, we did not know that.
Battery design.
Anything other than.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah. I
let's
mean,
take
that's
a-
why I put that break sign.
whoa, yeah.
Yeah, thoughts on break for pizza?
Break for pizza, continue eating pizza and teach or lecture.
Up to you guys. I don't need if there's something else.
Are people, it's like totally good, you're like, this is good, Danny, this is not a normal meeting, being pointed out. Okay, let's stop there and then for workday, you can start. Okay.
Everybody give a hand for.
All right, thanks Hunter for presenting. So we have more stuff on battery design, but we're gonna save that for a more specific workday. So if you're interested more in this, you can come ask Hunter more battery questions and to come to that workday and you can show more battery related stuff. Or even today, if you just want to hang out and just bother Hunter, he will be here with more slides on that. But other than that, it is the end of our meeting. Thanks everybody for coming. We have pizza outside for people to grab on the way out. We are doing a contest currently, a school club contest.
Yeah,
Ryan can
right
show you how to use the giant tower and the big radio in there. Make some contacts if you like. Stick around and ask anyone any questions. Cool. And then remember, hand cram this weekend.
I'm going to.
I'm just,
So the first, there's 3 levels.